Good evening, everybody. If I could get someone to say if they can hear me, and we're just going to jump right into it tonight. I've been in the chat a little bit earlier, so I've seen a lot of you are here. I'm going to shoot it up here until I can get some confirmation about that everything is working. Hello. Good evening. Oh, great. All right. So let's jump right into it. I see a lot of people are here. Society page. I can't put everyone up. Rabbit, the two, Susan Hicks, Letterman's Girl, Innuendo, or I Innuendo. Okay, let's jump right into it because there's a lot of detail I'm going to cover tonight. And one of the first things I'm going to get to, let's get right to the agenda. I love seeing that sea of wrenches out there, so I can concentrate on the content and not so much the chat. Hi, Ryan B. Hi, Mia, Barbara, Wesley John Holmes. Okay. All right, let's go. And I was noticing that in StreamYard, because I was having so many issues with the glitches of the video that I had uploaded last time, that I did now a presentation PDF slides, and I'm noticing that they're jumping as well as I'm just sort of navigating and testing things. So bear with me. I hope it doesn't happen when we're live, but it likely will. So anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so the agenda tonight is I just want to talk about some news and corrections that I just made a few. When you talk for so long and sometimes you think about things that you say, maybe I didn't communicate things well, or if I misstated something, I always want to leave an option open for a mistake or a misstatement. And even I've noticed sometimes I'll start a topic and not finish it. I apologize. That's just, I guess, how my brain is working these days. But so anyway, things like that, news and corrections, just at the top of line, I get things wrong and I always want to leave a place to correct them or clarify, should that need to happen, or on other things or other people. So, or just misinformation, or just, even if it's not intentional, just that's going to be my new thing. And then I'm going to spend a lot of time, that big chunk of the day of July 18th, and specifically talk about Wendy's lunch that day. Then we'll talk about this ISOM and Kawass text that you've seen, probably I've posted on social media. Then I have Patreon questions, and then I have trivia. I've got some good trivia questions at the end. I think I may have 10 trivia questions, and we'll really get to see what you guys are made out of in the chat, to see how well you really know this case, and you might learn something. So let's get on with it. Just again, want to say hi to everybody. Thanks for joining and spending time with me and putting up with me, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So today, this just hit, is that Charlie got another 30 days. Ufferman filed, and I guess it was granted another 30 days on his appeal. I don't know if there's any lawyers here. I think this is pretty standard, that you can kind of just keep kicking the can down the road with stuff like this. I don't know how it works, but that's just my impression. I mean, anyone that's been following this case specifically understands delays and how they're unexpected and plentiful. So he got another delay, and it looks like it's going to hit right in the first, in the eve of his mom's trial. Jury selections on 9/17, and this is 9/18. So anyway, that's news. I don't know what that means. Again, if there's any lawyers in here that want to drop a few lines, explain that, feel free. So the correction I wanted to make is, I think on my live stream, and someone wrote a comment, and I read the comment, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And the way they were, it made me think that I might have made a mistake, even though I didn't go back and listen to it, just sort of my recollection. But I said that Wendi and Charlie had two different ways of describing her throwing up at the celebration dinner. And one of them was, I was saying, he was talking about getting her to the bathroom, and she was talking about, in previous trial testimony, vomiting at the table. And the person was right. Charlie also did say she vomited at the table, but then I'll never forget, he acts like he's almost reenacting it. He goes, yeah, and then she threw up, and then I went, oh boy. And then we said, let's get you to the bathroom. He was like trying to be in the moment, acting as if it was happening. He was like play acting it out, which I thought was really funny. And so she did throw up at the table. I may have given the impression, or have misstated that she didn't, that Charlie said she threw up in the bathroom. But the point being is the way that they tell it is that Wendi, a typical lawyer, doesn't give many details on the stand. Whereas Charlie, of course, he's testifying for his, his life. It's his trial. He's giving a lot of detail and he's talking a lot, as we all saw. But he gives like this very robust story with lots of details. Well, guess who does that? People that are lying. People are lying, always insert these little unnecessary details. And Wendi didn't do that, but he was talking about her throwing up at the dinner. And I noticed another place where he did that as well is when they're talking about how the TV got broken for the alibi, the Geek Squad. Charlie said Lincoln threw it. Wendi never said, we never knew which kid had thrown it, or apparently what the story was. So I just thought that was really interesting. And it made me go to this place where I think about how people who don't think like me may think, and what that makes me think. Maybe, I don't know, someone pulled Lincoln aside. Remember when you broke that TV? Yeah, Lincoln, remember when you threw that and broke that TV? Of course, a child will start believing what they hear. And then all of a sudden, you get corroboration for the TV getting broken a certain way. So I don't know. I just don't know why else Charlie would get so specific about how the TV was broken by a kid. Maybe the TV was broken legitimately by one of the children, and the decision, we know that there was a big lag in time that Wendi decided to actually address the problem and get it fixed. And that Jeffrey Lacoste watched a movie or kids movie or something, I don't remember, and then it was all cracked, and he's like, this is ridiculous, let me just go buy a new TV. Why are we watching this TV like that? So maybe that happened, the TV just broke, and Don was like, don't get it fixed, we'll use that for your alibi, how long can you wait? And then June happened, and then they had to wait another month. Of course, Wendi could just blame it on being a busy single mother of two and not getting around to it, not thinking it's that important. So it's not here or there. I just noticed that around those two stories, Charlie gave so much more detail and so much color, almost like play-by-play. He gave us the background when Wendi had talked about those similar instances and had not. Just that was the takeaway for me. So I wanted to correct that. And then I also, Jay is, getting a lot of the FOIA, and shout out to Jay. We DM'd today. I love Jay. I love his content. I really hope that if some trial that is not this trial or a murder case happens, I really hope that Jay is around to cover it, that I'm interested in, separate from this, which I don't follow a lot of cases that I don't have time besides this. But I hope that he's around because he makes great content. I love his insight. I just really like Jay a lot. So I go follow Jay's uploading a lot of stuff, as you may notice. And we've seen them before, a lot of these with Mentor Lawyer. That's what he made his channel so great back in the day. And I just want to be very clear. I am getting really sassy about sticking up for myself, and not everyone's like, oh, here we go again. But I feel like I kind of have to, but I also just want to be very clear. I think it was around the time, and this is not shade on anybody, but there was a time when all of us collaborators worked pretty, with some little bit of infighting, because I was involved. I'm in the group, so there's going to be a little bit of that. But there was we all kind of respect, we all had our little thing. We all had our little thing that we did, and we all worked together. So Mentor Lawyer, besides doing, it's back in the day when he get on and explain things as the one person talking about this case on YouTube as a lawyer. And he uploaded Wendi's 5-hour interrogation. That's the first place I saw it. I was blown away. I was interested in the case, but he's the one that uploaded it. So I think it was kind of around the time that Surviving the Survivor came on the scene. And it started being who's the OG of the case? Who knows more than everyone else? And people were there's all these titles. And I see people in the comments say, who's the OG? Who's the OG? If anyone's the OG, it's Mentor Lawyer. Okay? And not someone doesn't need to be an OG of the case. No one's really an OG. And if they are, it's Mentor Lawyer, because he was the first to get up there. So I just would really stop people doing labels. Even I get uncomfortable putting in the comments, you're the best one that covers this case. I just there's a little bit too much of that. And when I'm going, I just don't want people to, I've pumped out a lot of new information into this stratosphere. And just, frankly, I just don't like people representing that it's out without attributing to the source. I think it's very important, because it looks like you're informing audiences of information. There's a lot of hard work that went into that in a lot of time. So that's the thing. It's like just about giving recognition where it's due. It's less about wanting to be the number one, gold medalist. I just, and if you want to give titles, you want to use the term OG, it belongs to mentor lawyer. Okay. So I just want to be very clear about that. I'm not looking for that. I just don't want all this hard work I basically did for free for years to be attributed to other people jumping in the last inning. That's frustrating. That's where the tension you've been hearing has been coming from. And I have good reasons. I just don't talk about them. So anyway, I'm done there, but I just want to make it very clear that if there's one person that really I was interested, and I had gone to Magbanwas, and gone to some case management meetings back in 2016. I was there. I was interested. I was putting my time in, but it was really Mentor Lawyer that online that came out and sort of encouraged others and stuff like that. So if there's anyone, it's him. So anyway, going back to sort of those times, Mentor Lawyer uploaded the Greenbergs, and I watched that video, years ago, and I know that there's a lot of people new to the case. So I just want to, Jay's now uploading it, and people watch it. I'm not saying, go watch it, but I just want to add a little context to it, because these are real people. These are people, some of them in these police interrogations. We're very lucky. Florida allows the Sunshine Law, and we get all this information, and I'm just as hungry for it as everyone else. I'm no better than you. I've watched it a couple times. So I want to just, add some context, because I've talked to some of these people, and, they're real people. And like the Greenbergs in the Tamara interview, those are they're at their rawest, and we're all here getting entertainment, frankly, off their rawest moment. They're in pain. They're this is all, imagine you or them, and your friend is murdered, and you know what's going on, and you're trying to help, and you're throwing out everything you can. It's not going to be your prettiest, proudest moment. Okay. And you're gonna have to get vulnerable. And that's what we're all feasting on. So let me give you a little background. There's a few things, and I won't get all into it, but there's a few things I specifically want to talk about Tamara, because she's not given her side of the story, besides what we all feasted on. But I will say that there's a lot of the people don't know there. And then, just hearing the Greenbergs, they're relatively new friends for Dan. And, Dan would always go out and hang out. Maybe there was a reason that makes total sense why, Tamara wasn't known to the Greenbergs, and just the way she did know him very long. And she was eating dinner with him June 4th, the night when he's supposed to be murdered the first time that we know about. I think that there was other hit attempts prior to that, maybe one or two, but I think definitely one. But, she was eating dinner with him the first night he's supposed to get murdered. She was a real friend. Okay. So she was friends with both Wendi and Dan. And so there was a couple things, like one thing I was just cringing, because I heard Maya say something about how Shelley Markel had asked Tamara not to start the GoFundMe. Right. And then I had to take a step back, and then I got, because what I know is I know a Wendi, and I know a Donna, and I know that family, and I know how they spun Jeff around and pointed the finger at Jeff. I know how they pointed the finger at Amy Adler's husband. I know, I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but they were setting the scenes, because they wanted to get away with it. So they were throwing shade. They were assessing their enemies, who was on their side, who wasn't going to believe them. So they were a family at war, the Adelsons at the time. Harvey wouldn't look people in the eyes. They had a plan. They had to execute it. They were a team. Wendi went walking with Jane to go tell her how jealous Jeff is, right before she's about to make him look like he could possibly be a jealous ex killing her ex on her behalf. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors, right? And that's what you do when you're a master manipulator, especially if you're smart and trying to get away with something, and you've got advanced planning going into it and teamwork. So I just want to say that, take a step back and think about this. When people are talking to Wendi around the time before they're going in those interviews, they've all mentioned speaking to Wendi at the memorial service, the Greenbergs, and the various interviews. Wendy's at this time floating. People don't think Wendy's involved. She's interacting. She's looking them in the eyes. She's looking sad. Ison believes her. It's like, her parents are there. So Tamara was the one who knew them both, had the balls to go over to Wendy's house And we're going to get into a little bit that day, but she was the one that went in. She said that it was very weird. Harvey wouldn't look her in the eyes. She said, we looked at each other and it was a look like, I know, he looked at her like, I know, I did it. And you know what? That stuff happens in the movies, but that's animal instinct right there. And if you ever watch any FBI profiler telling you about, body language or instinct or interrogations or whatever, like you probably do if you're here now, they always say, like, trust that instinct, trust that gut, whatever that is that's speaking to you in the back of your head. That's the go in that direction, right? And so that's what she was doing. And she's got a Harvard Law degree, okay? She's not a dummy either. She's gathering clues. She knows how this works. So she went in there and she was assessing it, and she spooked Harvey, and she was really pushing back. Janine, she says in her interview at one point, she says, it was very weird because Wendi called me over and we're talking, and she had Janine, this Janine woman, and Jane is separate. This is a separate woman, Janine. She said Janine was hovering all around her like a bodyguard. And Janine's like a new friend, and we don't understand why all of a sudden she's got this. It was very weird. And then she said it was very weird that she knew that Wendi had a boyfriend, and it was kind of serious, Jeff, right? And all of a sudden Wendi was like, I don't have a boyfriend. So she was very put off by these new people, these new like Wendi had a social life that did not look familiar to Tamara. And it's noticeable, So, and Tamara was, was on the scene. She was just trying to get information, trying to figure things out. I don't know. She was doing the best she could. You saw her. She was a genuine person. So in there's some stuff there. And I just want to say, you don't know if Wendy's sitting there saying Harvey saw that Tamara knew, and they pulled back, like, Tamara's going to be a problem. And Janine pulled over, and to finish that story, Janine was acting like a bodyguard, and Tamara says that they pulled her over. And she goes, do you know who it is? And started going on and trying to plant the seed that it was Amy Adler's husband that could have done this as like a jealous thing. So, and then we know from the Greenberg's interview, it wasn't. They had a great divorce. And even the ex-husband, Amy's ex-husband, offered to let Dan stay in his apartment. You know what I mean? So that wasn't it. But you got to think, if you assess a threat, what you're going to want to do is neutralize that threat you're going to want to poison the well against that person. So all these people coming in right now, and, she said something about the GoFundMe, right? She said, Maya Greenberg said that she heard that Shelley had asked Tamara not to set up the GoFundMe. And I'll just leave this here, and I'll end on this point, is that, first of all, the big point is these are real people, and there's a lot of backstory to this. So when this gets posted and we're all commenting on the chat and whatever, it's like, it really is that iceberg where it's like that tiny little part of the tip top is what you see. And there's an entire iceberg underneath it. That's really what you don't see. And it's huge, and it's what's important. But so it's like these interviews is like, we're all feasting on them, but there's context here. And you got to think about in the context is Tamara is a danger and is assessing, and she's already spooked the Adelsons and gotten all up in their business, and they think she's friends with them. And they think that she thinks that she suspects them. There's even an issue at the memorial service that speaks to this. I think she was sabotaged. I really do. And I think I hear that here, and I don't know who told them that, but the GoFundMe, my understanding is that is not the case about Shelley not asking her. I don't know for sure. But from what I'm hearing, what I've heard, is that even the Markel other members of the Markel family donated to that. And if you read Ruth's book, Ruth put in there that she was really upset. Ruth was really upset because it added to insult to injury, is that, and Ruth didn't say anything, said Ruth noted Tamara, a friend of Dan's, Tamara set up a GoFundMe for his kids. Which is what you do when everybody's giving you attention. You want to get the attention and get something for the kids. It was a thoughtful thing to do, just like Ruth not knowing who's being arrested next and thinking the first thing is the boys. They need a plan. They need someone to look after them. It's a good natured thing. But anyway, in Ruth's book said the GoFundMe that she was upset because she had heard that Wendi had called GoFundMe and labeled herself as a widow, and wanting to get the funds directly behind Tamara's back. Just let that sink in. So those are the feasting on the Greenbergs and hearing all that. Just know when you're watching these interviews, especially about this case, there's a whole backstory and there's a lot of context. And I just hope that gets into the ether right now with what I'm saying, and then I'll just leave it there. Yeah, and now that's what and I want to make another point. At this point in time, these interviews we're all feasting on, those are just days after the murder. They could have, like, a week down the road, they could have gotten their bearings and been like, holy crap, I didn't know that. Yeah, of course. And maybe and I'm telling you, maybe there's reasons why this all maybe makes sense that can't be explained right now to the public. All right. So just give people their privacy and just don't become don't, to use Dan Rosfrom's word that he put in his courtroom motion, mob mentality, right? This is an intellectual group. All right, so I just wanted to say that. Okay, going to the next thing. All right, so here is, I want to read this because we're going to be talking about Wendy's lunch, right? So I want to talk about that day. I don't want to talk about just when, I want to talk about with that, I want to pair these events next to Wendy's events at lunch, just so that you can see the context of this day and how horrible it is. So I'm going to read this to you right now. And this is a report done by Sergeant Galvin Larimore. And it says, on Friday, July 18th, I heard a call go for a possible shooting on Trescott Drive. I responded to emergency mode and arrived just after Sergeant D. Sims. EMS arrived shortly after I did and rendered aid to the victim. Upon arrival, I observed a vehicle parked in an open garage which was attached to the house. As I approached, I could see an occupant moving about in the driver's seat and shattered glass from a broken driver's side window. I could see the door between the house and the garage was closed. I approached the driver's side of the car and looked inside. The occupant was a white male who was unresponsive to verbal attempts at a communication, but was moving around breathing. He was bleeding profusely from the face. I could see that what appeared to be a bullet hole in the glass in the driver's side window. It was located high in the window and on the right side as I was looking at it from the outside. There seemed to be an even spread of glass on the inside and outside of the vehicle. At this point, I did not know if the wounds were self-inflicted or not. I went to the passenger side where the door was open to locate and secure any firearms that may be present. I did not see one. The victim was holding a cellular phone in his hand and had a business card or some in his right, which was likely the phone number for the arts and sciences. I don't know. That's just a guess. I also noticed a pair of eyeglasses in the vehicle that appeared to have broken in half at the bridge. Think about that. That means Sigfredo shot him right between the eyes. And Dan was looking at him. I observed that there were 2 empty child seats in the back of the victim's car. Based on several factors, I believe at the time it was likely that the victim's wounds were not self-inflicted, and the empty child seats concerned me. At the time, the house had not been cleared of threats or searched for other victims. The door between the house and the garage was locked. Sergeant Sims unlocked it with the keys he had retrieved from the ignition, and I took a group of officers inside to clear it. We did not locate any other persons inside, and once the sweep was completed, we exited. I put up crime scene tape across the street on the south side of the crime scene and stayed there for a short time to allow law enforcement vehicles access. Upon their arrival, I related the information to investigators. So there it is. Sigfredo went right in there in the top right, shot him in between the eyes. He was looking at him. Even though Wendi said in her writer's podcast or her radio, whatever, her podcast, she did 11 months after the murder. She says that a professional killer, in her dramatic, breathy voice, she said, my ex-husband was shot in the back of the head by likely a professional killer. He died young and tragically. No, it wasn't the back of the head. Someone that wants to tell it like the back of the head is probably someone who wants to relay it in a way that feels better. It's very specific and it's a very wrong detail. I don't know. She didn't need to recite the details at all, but she wanted to, as she said on that podcast, tell her side of the story. So here you can see on the left, you can see what was likely in his hand, which was that blue cell phone. You can obviously see blood there, and you can see half of glasses, right? And then there's a close-up, but that's just like, that's so. That's that. So this is around 11 o'clock in the day. So we're going to get to Wendy's lunch soon. So this is another Sergeant James Bessie, and he wrote on July 18th, 2014, I was summoned to 2016 Trescott in reference to a subject who was shot in the head while in his vehicle. While en route, I was advised that a neighbor heard a loud noise coming from the incident location, and upon checking, the victim discovered him bleeding from the head and barely breathing. The victim, later identified as Daniel Markel, was transported to TMH, Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. He later succumbed to his injuries and pronounced deceased. I was first tasked with drafting and securing a search warrant for the crime scene, as the house was in the name of his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson. Interesting, because she said that she went a month after the settlement to get her name removed. I'm not quite sure how all that works. I learned quickly on the scene that Markel and Adelson recently went through a nasty divorce. The search warrant was reviewed by the Judge Fleury and executed subsequently. Investigator Hubbard and I worked at the crime scene. Upon my arrival, Markel had already been transported to TMH, where he had been evaluated for emergency surgery. Markel's vehicle was completely inside the garage, but the bay door was all the way up. There was various other items in the garage, but it was a large amount of the vehicle safety glass shattered on the outside of the car by the driver's side door and just inside the driver's seat and floorboard. There was a white towel in the passenger seat, and it had blood pulled and collected on it, as well as some other splatter on the center of the console. I was advised that the driver's door was cracked, but somewhat intact, and the victim had been laying over in the center console and with his head on the white towel. I was advised that the safety glass broke out upon trying to administer first aid to Markel and removing him from the vehicle. Also, Markel was observed holding a cellular phone in one hand and clutching a business card in the other. The phone was later collected, as well as the business card. The garage was searched extensively and methodically, but there were no shell casings found in the garage or inside the vehicle. There was a laptop in a case that was located underneath of the white towel in the passenger seat. The case and the laptop were taken as it appeared that Markel was using the laptop for work. The glove compartment of the vehicle was locked. Investigator Hubbard unlocked it and located Markel's wallet. It was cash, credit card, and normal items expected in a wallet. So they know it's not likely a robbery at that point, which is it's not likely for a robbery to happen in that area of town at that time of day. While on the scene, I took control of Markel's cell phone and gave it to Investigator Dillmore. I later searched the rest of the house. I was advised that upon clearing the house, officers had to remove the keys from Markel's vehicle to gain access, as it was locked. After clearing the house, there were no signs of foul play or forced entry. The house appeared to have been secured from the inside as a matter of routine by Markel. The house was cleaned, but it contained a lot of unorganized clutter that mainly consisted of legal paperwork or notes from Markel's business or class or items belonging to his two young sons, 5 and 3. An iPad was located on the kitchen area and was taken into evidence as well. So there's his wallet pulled out for evidence. And so funny, look, and look at that American Express, and it looks like he's a gold medallion. Right? I was a gold medallion. I had that same card back in the day. He's getting all those gold medallion perks. All right, we're now to Wendy's lunch. On the right here, you will see it's the call record of Wendy's calls from that day that's been posted on 3 trials now. So, and about to be in a 4th. So this, when we talk about Wendy's movements in the day, this has been up and out there in the public domain over and over again. What you notice here is Wendi makes that call up to Dan. And so Dan is, he's shot at this point. Then you look, she texts. So we're getting into lunch plans here. And we all know when Wendi tells Isom that she had a last minute, she normally does a regular routine Friday lunch with this group of friends, same group of friends. And they just at the last minute decided to do it. I don't know if Wendy's looking for something to do. I don't know. Last minute. So people are always like, what's this lunch about? I want to know more about it. How did they find her at the lunch? So who are these people she was with? Wendi says that she was at a lunch with doctors, and even specifically tells Sarah, the victim advocate, that when she was talking about how do I tell the kids, and was sort of going on and on and on about how to tell the kids he's dead, da da da. If he's not dead, it's a game changer. Meanwhile, she's got Tova, who's like a father expert who could probably help. But she also talks about how these doctors, she talks about how she had lunch with 2 psychologists, and they would probably be good people to talk to, when they're like assessing her, they're considering her as a suspect. She even like said that they'd be good people. They're psychiatrists. So they'd be good people. And then she even told the victim advocate that one of the people she had lunch with is actually a child psychologist. And then Sarah, the child victim advocate, said that, yeah, that would be a good person to ask. So that's all out there. That's the backstory. So in here, look at the very bottom. You'll see right here, this Jeff Skopak, this name was said, this is associated, I think that's not answered. I'm trying to find, I thought I was going to get, I guess I was the list of calls. The friend she was calling, and she said that she dropped the one from London, but this Janine and Riti here. So you look at the call here at 11:44, they're making, where do you want to go? And even in these texts, I've read these texts before, and it's really funny because either Wendi or Janine, I can't remember, one of them says, we can go to lunch, but so we can go to lunch, but tell me, what do you fancy? What do you fancy for lunch? And then maybe laugh because they use the terminology fancy when they're discussing this lunch. And they end up going to Mosaic. But if you look here, you see this Janine, and then I think it's this Riti, this text here. And so these are all the time. I think these are the people that she's going to lunch with, and I can tell you why I think that. And then you look here, you see Harvard Law School is calling, and so there's the word is out about Dan's death. And then look at all this Janine back and forth, these texts, right, and these calls. So and then Ruti calls. So what's happening is that she's getting picked up, and they're calling to figure out what's going on. Why did you just get picked up from lunch? This is what this behavior tells me. And then Lisa Carey, if you look down here at the bottom, you see 214. That was the voice message that she left, and that she plays ISOM. And it's kind of how she learns that something happened on Trescott. I guess how she says she learns because she didn't pick up the clues by seeing all the emergency vehicles when she pulled up to the crime scene earlier about now, before lunch, prior lunch. So you can see like kind of what's happening here. So you look at this Janine, and you look at this Ritu, who these people are heavily talking to her right before the lunch time. And then if you look too, they're both contacting her after. So let's go a little bit more. So if you look here on the left, you see Janine, and you can see she's an oncologist, but she has a dual. She also is it's a joint medical degree or something, but she's also a psychologist. So very prominent, very educated. I think she went to Emory, very specialized, very rich, right? She's got money. I think she's married to a doctor as well. And then you have, look here, you got Rutu, whatever, and she's like a child psychologist right there, just like Wendi said, the person. So, and then in Tallahassee, right? And there it is on the thing. So, and then you can look here, Wendi did the medical legal partnership, which is where I think maybe some of these associations got. And I looked here, if you look down, you got a Rutu MD here that's at the FSU College School of Medicine. Okay. So that's who I think it was, right? 2 + 2 = 4, not 5. Okay, so this is just a basic slide, but you see Wendi coming. We've gone on and on this, going all the way down. If you can see with the Mosaic where she had lunch, and I will just say, a lot of people saying, "Well, she just went to the first liquor store she knows, and she gets really turned around and doesn't have directions." That will never fly with a Tallahassee jury. If you come in there with that kind of answer to this map, you will be laughed out of the room, and you will expose yourself for not knowing what the hell you're talking about. You're making no sense. You're like a dummy, because the jury knows, and as the jury has discussed, we've learned this from juror interviews, that they knew what Wendi was saying was a bunch of crap. The juror who hung the Magbanawa trial in 2019, did not want the prosecution to convict Catherine Magbanua, but said very clearly that her and the jury knew that Wendi was lying about the crime scene tape. And they also know, and that's why Charlie was so upset, because I think it clicked for him how damaging this was. And I guess Wendi just didn't want to take ownership or believe that she could have made a mistake like that, because people with certain types of personality disorders, I don't know if she has one, but they never admit they're wrong. It's always someone else's fault. They're victims. We also heard a lot of that from the jailhouse calls, right? Post-conviction. Nothing like, I'm wrongly convicted, I'm innocent. It was, no, you got scammed. Georgia got help on that presentation. Dateline. It was all attacking of how good of a case they put on. There's nothing about being wrongly convicted and them getting it wrong, and Katie being a liar and a bad actor. None of that. It reeks of guilt. And I think that's why Donna will be convicted pretty quickly based on all of that, her fleeing on a one-way ticket, consciousness of guilt. I just think it's a tight case. But anyway, any person that has lived in Tallahassee, and some of them are on here now, and they're probably going to fist pump me. And we know Wendi says she doesn't drink, whatever, but there's plenty, and I've shared a lot of photographic evidence, and there's been a lot of testimony from people that's not the case. But anyone that lives in North Tallahassee, so anyone that lives sort of north of Tennessee Street, Monroe, all up there, the Clarn area, all where she lives, anywhere North Tallahassee, they know. And if you drink, you know where the liquor stores are. There's probably like 4 liquor stores. And you just know there's like, the people ask, how did Wendi get found by the cops? I don't know that. I've seen people say that they know that, they know that like her phone pinged and they found her through searching the areas of where she would be. They, went looking for her because they thought she was in danger. If you think about all the cop shows you watch, think about, they need to find someone quick. It happens in every real true crime procedural. What do the cops do? They find the person's phone, right? So I think that that's really important to think, that don't get so lost in how she's found. Wendi is even confused. She throws her arms out. She goes, how did they find me? Of all the things to worry about, Dan dying, who killed him? Am I safe? She was really curious how they found her at lunch. She had time to think about that. And so that's what I think would happen, common sense. But anyone in Tallahassee who says that she needed to put her GPS living up all the way up on Centerville to find a liquor store, having lived in Tallahassee for over 7 years, knows that person is lying to you and hoping that you are so stupid. Everyone knows you live in a very small town with like 5 or 6 shopping centers, and you lived there for 7 years. You don't forget which liquor store to go to, and you want to go to the one that you normally, no, it's a small town. You know where things are. Very common. You know where things are if you're living in North Tallahassee for 7 years. You don't need to put it in, your GPS to find out, or you need to just go to the one, 12 miles out of the way because you can't think of another one. That's a lie. That's a lie. And everyone who is local knows that. It's a big deal right there. All right, you guys ready for your blood to boil? On the refrigerator was tacked schedule of the Premier Gym's exercise classes. I was advised that Markel was dressed as if he were at the gym, so I relayed to the gym schedule to Sergeant Johnson and requested that an investigator to go see the gym to see if Markel had gone there prior to returning home. After returning to the station, as I was tasked to locating Janine Silberman. By this point in the investigation, Wendi Adelson was located having lunch and brought to the station for questioning. Silberman was one of the 2 women that were there. Silberman was one of the 2 women that were there with, I think it's Wendi. Silberman during lunch, and they were present when the investigators contacted her. Later, Silberman had called and left a voice message on Adelson's phone stating that she knew who was behind this and that the thought of it turned her stomach. Silberman was located at her residence and agreed to come into the police station for an interview. Silberman was directed to the CID interview room too, and the interview was video recorded. Silberman was sworn in and signed oath of perjury form. Silberman was asked about the meaning behind the voicemail message, and she denied calling Wendi and leaving the message. She showed me her phone and pulled up the call log. There was a call that matched the records of Wendi's phone where she received a call from Silberman. The call was outgoing for about 1 minute and 16 seconds. She claimed that it must have been a butt dial and that the message was of her and others in the car talking about what happened. I later contacted investigator Rodriguez, who was downloading information from Wendi's cellular phone. She provided me a recording of Silberman's message to play for her. Upon playing the message, which was clear and unequivocal that Silberman was calling and addressing Wendi by name, making the aforementioned statements, Silberman again denied leaving the message. I pressed her further, and upon replaying the message, stated that she did leave the message and that it was not in the context concerning the murder. Silberman stated that when the investigator came to lunch and essentially took Wendi away, she immediately thought the police presence were concerning the custody arrangement being litigated between her and Markel. Upon that thinking, she figured that Markel had filed something to warrant police attention and that it turned her stomach. Silberman reiterated that she had no idea who would want to kill Markel or harm him or anything helpful in this investigation. Silberman was later transported back to her residence. That's Wendi's friend. Straight up lies under oath. The message played back to her, and she's denying it. This is a prominent doctor in town. And you got to think too, I just talked about the Greenberg's interview, which Jay just posted on his channel, Hey Shaming of Jay. You got there, someone's really close to Dan Markel around the time of his murder at the same time and is opening up to them. And he's basically it broke my heart because I heard Alex Greenberg say, look, Dan talked to me about everything. He told me a lot of details and he did not hold back. But he was always mad about what was going on in behavior, but there was a difference. He was never really talked mad or hated on Wendi as like a person, right? Never thought she was evil, like he separated the two and he was very clear about that. And that's like a mark of someone who's really mature, trying to, here, what I see is Wendi spinning everyone to think Dan, her family, to think Dan is the devil, he's evil. Think of Jeff Lacasse in his police interview said daily, there was two things they talked about. Her wanting to get to Miami and that Dan Markel was the devil. And that Wendi's family's hobby was hating Danny. And it was very unusual. Then you think you got Jane going on the walk. Now Jeff's crazy. Think about Tamara. Now all this stuff going out, you really got to take a step back and you got to think if someone is bad in connection or has a bad reputation in this case, you got to step back and think, well, were Wendi or any of her proxies feeding them bad information? I don't think Jeff was that jealous. I think he was spun around looking for some clarity. He was getting some serious mixed messages and he really liked her and loved her. And he said, I wanted to be a father. I wanted kids. And she knew that. And I was getting really close to the boys, basically babysitting them all the, so when he was teasing that they were going to call him dad. I mean, this is really manipulation. So you got to really think, you got this Janine woman lying to police, thinking that, look here. She claimed that it must have been a butt dial, but he played it backwards. Said, no, you're addressing her by name, and she still denied it. They essentially took Wendi away. Wendi's a victim. Oh, what was all this? Everyone's so mean to Wendi. You got to really, you really got to look at the big picture. These are around this time, these are some pictures of Wendi. She's doing some stuff around her book. This is her running a marathon on the right. On the left, look at that stair. There she is again on a panel. This is our story up on the background. Here she is signing a book at a book event. Okay. Isom and Kawass text. Katie's arrested. She has pissed her pants in the shopping center somewhere in suburbia, Florida. I don't even know where she was. I can't remember at this point. Taramark or wherever her brother lived. And so Katie's arrested. Tara Kawass writes, "Good evening. As you know, this is Katie Catherine's attorney, Tara Kawass. Tara, let this text memorialize that she invokes her right to remain silent and to counsel. No one is to meet with her without me being present. She has been counseled on this issue, will request the same and say nothing else. Also counseled her on spontaneous statements, so that won't be happening either. Thank you for understanding here and for letting her call me. There was no need to arrest her, though she would have surrendered as you asked." Well, this is just a pretty normal, standard, what you would expect your lawyer to do. At this point, Catherine is aware they've tried to talk with her in the past. She's aware she's the heat. We heard that Jim Lewis call where he's like, they want you to cooperate. I don't know how she got from Jim Lewis to Tara, but they know, and she knows that they want her to cooperate. She doesn't want to do it. And she knows that they think that she did this with Charlie, right? And then Isom writes, "Based on her past behavior and lack of cooperation, we could not take the chance of her taking flight and endangering others. We showed you and your client tremendous respect and went out of our way to allow her to call you for her children's benefit. We believe that you did your client the disservice of ruining any opportunity she had left proactively to cooperate by notifying Charlie Adelson's attorney of her arrest. Are you working with Mr. Marcus on a combined strategy wherein you have some obligation to inform him of your client's actions?" And I just want to say, David Oscar Marcus is a hotshot lawyer, right? He's got a reputation. I've had separate people tell me that if you use the phrase, if you have a dead hooker in your hotel room, he's the guy who could get you out of it type stuff. But, he is a bit of a rainmaker in that way. And, part of me just thinks for someone who I think is definitely not on that caliber, put it that way. Tara Kawass, I think, was a public defender for many years. And I don't think she definitely does not have a comparable career to David Oscar Marcus. So seeing like a younger, kind of hungrier, attention seeking, she does like that. I don't think anyone can deny that. But, right. And you all of a sudden you're paired up and you find yourself working with kind of someone who's at the top of their game. It makes you look good. You can interface. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. You got to think about it. Yes, these are lawyers and they all are looking out for their client's best interest, but there's a lot of self-motivation that comes with just being a human being, right? So for her to call Charlie Adelson's, it really, and then that Jim Lewis call, I know that they won't be talking. So it just shows that they're locked down. And to me, it's messy, right? I think that you should go contact police first. That's in the best interest of your client. Try to get that probable cause affidavit. Try to get everything. You don't need to circle in what could potentially be someone sitting in the way of a pretty sweet fucking deal your client is about to get. Full immunity. You sit down, corner her, and scare the shit out of her and say, I don't know, whatever. We could debate it. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. But I've just heard a lot of very experienced, competent attorneys. So I see a lot of stuff, the public discourse is like, you don't know what Kawass told, or how she was influencing Kawass Magbanua behind the scenes. You don't know that. And, anyone that understands the legal framework at all knows that she probably did, right? Because the deal was so good. And, it would be derelict for her not. So you don't know that she probably did. And it's always the client's choice, end of the day, period. Yes, that is true. But Magbanua wasn't talking to anyone. Her mom just died. She didn't have any friends. This was her hope. Her mom died of breast cancer. Kawass battled breast cancer, got the trial delay and beat it. There's all of this savior complex stuff going in between, all around full circle. It's very emotional. You may not want to hear that because you want to think a lawyer does what they're supposed to do and is able to siphon off all of that and make objective decisions. I believe and have heard that Tara Kawass believed Katie was innocent up to the end, right? Okay, so I wouldn't just say that unless I was pretty confident. And I think that if you go back and you look and see how Tara didn't hear anything bad on that Dulce Vita. Tara thought that she could blow Jessica Rodriguez out of the water and make her look so not credible at all. It was the opposite. Just all these like flubs, And so anyway, it was very emotional. So Isom writes back. But right now, I do want to give her the benefit of doubt. And I do want to put on the record, and I pretty much have said this. I've said this from the start. And if you go back to 2016 to Really Busy on Web Sleuths, I am also pushing this. I don't think they Tara and her partner, her loyal partner, Christopher DeCoste, I don't think they got paid by the adolescents behind the scenes. I really don't. I never did. I don't know why. It's a gut thing. It's my read on it. Can't prove it. Don't know. I never thought that. I just thought that, and it was based by this how they handle themselves, on social media and in front of the camera. I just think that they really wanted the media exposure, right? I think they got a lot of attention after that, the retrial. I know that their little regional professional association of lawyers gave them one of the awards. They give out several awards a year and a banquet, and it's like their little like local thing. And they got some attention from their peers. And I just think that it felt really good to be attached to a high profile case. That is my read. And I have a much higher opinion of Christopher DeCoste as a lawyer in terms of skill sets. There's stuff I can respect there professionally. I think that I watched 2 trials and a lot of back and forth. And I think that Kawass was addicted to the media and got way too close to Katie. Her client tried to, be her mom, have a savior complex. And I think it was a disaster. And I think that's what we all saw. So the detective Isom writes back, this is switched. It's supposed to be Kawass down. Sorry, that's my mistake. So it was still Isom up there and it's Kawass in the black hair. My bad. But even though it works because you got Isom there, like reading it. Detective Kawass says, my obligations are to Katie and Katie only. We weren't the ones who leaked it to the media. Well, she can't prove that. The whole world found out about the arrest from a leak within a few hours of the arrest. Why would that story be leaked so quickly if you were interested in cooperation? What? It makes sense because it's a high profile case and it's going to get out. So what's the difference if it's 2 hours or 1 week? And how does that affect Katie's mindset and taking full immunity? And as for danger, et cetera, we all know that she poses no danger or risk. Yeah, well, I heard her on the wiretaps about how when she was in a fight with Sigfredo and how she beat him up and how she says that there was bruises that she got from Zumba. She's talking to a friend, Kenya, and she talks about how she's got bruises from Zumba. And she says, if it says my mom pulled, I'll just show the bruises and say he did it. That's Kate. That's the manipulator. And she also says she took a gun. She's got a gun in her car. Right. And she took the gun from the house with Sigfredo. So she would know she's armed. They don't know this. So Kawass doesn't know. Kawass is talking out her ass. Not credible. What you've done here, because they know that. They've heard at this point, she's talked on the tapes about having the gun and beating up Sigfredo. It was done for the media. What you've done here, it was done for the media. Wow. I would like to take that and I would like to tattoo that across Tara Kawass's forehead. Like a scarlet letter. What you have done here, you have done for the media. Please let me know when you can send me whatever it is. It gives a breakdown of the probable cause for the arrest. Have a nice Sunday. I don't remember where, but I remember at one point, I think it was Christopher Coase, and they were litigating this issue, whether and I think it was in pretrial hearings. And it was whether they were going to get on the fact of this text exchange happening, right? Because much like Jim Lewis, it shows they're all cahoots, right? Prisoner's dilemma. So it shows that. It shows coordination between the co-conspirators. And, Kawass isn't the cleanest lady in the world when this. We have all those work product calls. She had like a dozen work product calls on a line with Sigfredo leading up to the arrest. And therefore that spun out, and made Sigfredo call his mom, and then there was phone calls with Sigfredo and his mom, which he's probably talking about testifying, which probably would have blown up any shred of credibility. He would have come in there and said anything to help Katie at all. But so anyway, so but the point they made, they were litigating, and I think I'm remembering, I think it was Christopher Coase, where he was like, look, people call people all the time, lawyers, and if the clients, we hear that our clients arrested from the media or whatever unofficially, and we don't have a breakdown of why the charges of why they're and what they have, you're going to immediately call the person to see who would also likely be arrested to see if they know what's going on, which in fairness does make sense, right? In fairness. But then again, you got to think, what's the best judgment for client? It makes sense if you're not thinking about how you could potentially siphon your client off from the real murderers and get her the sweetheart deal that so clearly that they wanted to give her. But that didn't happen. And you know what? Katie was a horrible client, and her proffers were extremely frustrating. I think that was several years of just not telling the truth and, Kawass eating up her bullshit. I don't know. Okay. So not much to say on that, but it's just like, it's an exchange out there. I haven't seen it out there yet. Here we go. These are the issues. Ugh. Here we go. Wait. So we're already done there. So I'm going to get to Patreon questions. But before I do that to the next segment, I'm just going to scan through here to see if I'm missing anything. And after these Patreon questions, we're going to get to trivia, which is going to be the fun part. Yeah, if you put those red question marks, it does help me catch my eye, because I know there's I like the interactive chat and the side conversations you guys are having. Amy A says, Fancy Fiction, hi. How did you first hear about this case, and what was about it that captivated you most to report about? How did you build up such an amazing rapport with the key players in this case? I saw the press conference with Chief DeLeo, and I remember my mom telling me, thinking, oh, this is so interesting. And Chief DeLeo was like, there's going to be 5 or 6 more arrests, but we're sealing things up because this is an ongoing active investigation. I remember thinking, this is really interesting. So just when I was in Tallahassee, I went to Mag Banawa's bond hearing in 2016, and I was blogging a shit ton on Web Sleuths under this name, Really Busy. And just like, I don't know what it was. I was like a moth to the flame with this case, and I don't know anything. It's beautiful because I never had been on a jury, and it was a way to learn about the criminal justice system through like an interactive case study by trying to learn the court docket, I'm just interested. And I kind of like found out, like, I found out along the way what things meant. And it was all through this case, and it's by the brutal murder of a criminal law professor. So in a way, he's still teaching me. So because I was blogging so much back in the day on Web Sleuths, a lot of people thought I was FBI close to the case. They thought that I was FBI kind of planted there, because what I was saying was, I don't know, intrigued them so much, and I'm so tenacious. And so I built a lot of goodwill with a lot of the key players of the case there wasn't a lot to watch or listen about. So they were like, who is this person? And it was funny back in the day when I was going back and forth with Tara Kawass, pressing her on issues, and we were going back and forth about, and I was spitting facts at her. She even said in one of our little exchanges as we were going back and forth in the Instagram comments, she said, I'm starting to think this is FBI Pat Sanford. So it was just because I've just been all over in many different places. And so I built a lot of credibility that way. And then it just kind of spearheaded from there. Someone kind of brought me out of Web Sleuths and was like, let's do something. I'm close to the case. And I was like, okay. And then it just kind of built. And then piecemeal, people started coming and trusting me. And it's just built from there. And there's been a lot of friendships. So that is how it all started. And it's just this weird little sidetrack of my life. Hi, my father's alibi. I just saw this at the bottom of the chat, but I heard it's because you can hear on the jailhouse calls that Charlie and Donna talk about how Marcus had some trials that he couldn't have done, like a timing issues, like he could have tried the case in this month, but not that month. And they're talking about the delays. So it might've been something that he had some conflicting cases, but then also too, Marcus's, his prices, I think increasingly went up over time. And I think money became an issue. For what he was willing to spend. But then there also would be the very juicy option C, which would be the fact that Marcus says, there's no way, this is not a believable defense theory. It won't work. And then Charlie thought, well, if you're saying it won't work, then you're not the guy to go in there and champion this for me. I need someone who's going to tell me this is going to work, right? I don't know. So that's just my guess. But I'm very curious. That's a great question. And I've asked key players, and no one can really say for sure, but the series of things that I've put out there has been what I've gotten back. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So Patreon questions. So this is, I just want to give my people who are in my little private backhand club, which there's a free trial, and I'm probably going to, this is just my fun little private thing to do. I probably will do like a cheaper option. I haven't looked at or changed anything just to make it more accessible, because it is about kind of sharing information for me. That's why there's some insider stuff I have on my Patreon peppered here and there, but for the most part, if it's good information, I want it out, and I'll do that for free. It's just how I've been doing it. So I'll probably continue to do that. But let me see here. I've asked people, I always do on there, I say, I'm doing a live stream. What do you want to talk to me about? Do you want me to do shout outs? So I'm going to read their comments here, and then we're going to get to trivia. Okay. Someone wrote, do you have any intel on Wendy's social worker friend, Jane? I've heard you give lots on info on Tova and others, but I can't remember hearing much about Jane. There was someone on Reddit yesterday saying that she works at FSU in the social work department and says that Jane was under Wendy's spell back then, but now she realizes how poorly she behaved. Plus, she may have been drinking that day before the police station, Jane, that is. Of course, I have no idea if the person is truthful. It's Reddit. So I figured that if anyone knew, it would be you. Thanks. Okay, so this is what I know. In the police interrogation, Wendi says that Jane is the one that set her up with Jeff, her colleague Jeff. That is not true. I don't know why Wendi said that. I have it on good authority that it was somebody else. Name is not important, but it was not Jane. Maybe Wendi was getting something confused. And that's, I don't believe that Jeff knew Jane that well. They were more colleagues, and I think Jane reiterate that. Jane also said in that interview that when she got the call about Wendi, when they were trying to figure out what was going on, they were going back and forth in the room together. She says that she was talked about drinking wine. I don't know if it's that she had been drinking wine. She just sat down to drink her wine. So that may have been a little bit of it. But she drove there, right? Because she waited out in the car, unless her husband drove her. But I don't remember hearing that. I remember her being out in the parking lot. I don't know. So there was that. But I will say that after Catherine Magbanaway's retrial, I, on Facebook through Fancy Fiction, was also curious about this. So I kind of, not harassment, I just tried to interact with, to get a sense from, again, this would probably be like 2020-ish. Probably, I'm ballparking. But as Fancy Fiction on Facebook, I interacted with Tova on Twitter, and a lot of people saw that real time, and then she blocked me and locked her account. I was just asking questions. It was not whatever. She went through her name and reputation on 2020, saying Dan was emotionally abusive to Wendi. So I had some questions, right? And she's a fatherhood expert. So, but anyway, I interacted with Tova, and it seems she's very clearly on Wendy's side. And I was also curious about Janine, who I just talked to. And I called her online to the police, and she was on Facebook being like, she was complaining in a post about someone being arrested and not being put away, but it was something about criminal justice and someone getting away with something. And she was like, how, we need criminals away or something like this. And I wrote, but like, how about lying to police, under oath? What was the point of that or something? And then she snapped back, you need mental health, you need help, go seek help and treatment, mental health. And she's a psychiatrist, so I thought that was pretty quick to throw out in the comments section. But it told me she's hyper defensive. And so we had no further communication from there. And that was under Fancy Fiction little Facebook, which is non-active. The other person I went to was Jane, and I tagged her, liked her, and then she liked something that, I don't know, we had some little interaction, but it wasn't words. But I saw that it was around COVID time, it was around 2020. And I saw that either Jane had shared something Tova had put out about keeping safe during COVID, or Tova had shared something Jane did, or Jane had shared something Tova had. So you saw interactions them as friends. And I was thinking, if they're still friends and they're still friends with Wendi on Facebook, which I could see they were, it led me to believe that in 2020, after that 2019 trial, because a lot of people saw that 2019 testimony that knew Wendi and thought, wow, Wendi's protecting herself here. This is not, we know she's lying about wanting to be in Tallahassee and the divorce not being nasty, da, 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 da. So she was really exposed there under some direct questioning. And a lot of people did not give her the benefit of the doubt anymore, those who knew her under this situation. So I do know about Jane is that looking at her background, like I haven't looked at it recently. I'm doing this off memory. So I'm doing the best I can. But I remember saying like she went to, it wasn't like Friends Seminary, but like Mrs. Potter's. I think it was Mrs. Potter's. But she went to some very elite prep school. And there's nothing wrong with that. My mom went to boarding school. But I'm saying it tells a little bit about her character. There's a little bit of entitlement. She was privileged, right? She had her high school, boarding school on her resume, right? Okay. So there's that. And then she went and proceeded to be in, I think, a career entirely in academia. And she's married to a crime writer. Jane is married to a crime writer, and he writes books. They did a project about how human bones, skeletons decompose, and like in their backyard, they have rotting bodies. If you Google her, there's all this is there, which is an interesting background. So yes, do I know more about Jane? Yes, I do. So that's what I know about Jane McPherson, and I do not know where she stands now. I do not know if this Redditor is right about her now. She sees the light. I've heard that Lynn Grossman sees the light, or the Grossmans, who were very pro Wendi. They're the ones that helped Wendi move out of Dan's house. It's where Wendi talked about going from the police station that Lynn went and picked up the boys. And Wendi says, I'm like an aunt to the Grossman's daughters who are older. So I heard that, but I don't know that. But if Lynn had ever wanted to talk to me, either behind the scenes or privately or publicly, I'm very open to that. And I'm not going to bother her. But if she wants to reach out, she can. I would be very interested to just, I don't know, have a conversation. Just curious, happy to keep it private. But that's a big player there. And I'm curious where her head's at. So, okay, next Patreon. I noticed that the state agreed to another extension of Charlie's appeal. It's now due on September 18th. Any idea why it keeps getting delayed, or why the state keeps agreeing to it? My hope is that he's cooperating, thus making any appeal necessary. I think that's just standard. You get to kick it back a few times. And I think if there's a lawyer here, they can say that. I don't know that. I'm not a lawyer. That just would be my best guess. So Society page, who's so sweet, just wrote a comment to thank me for all that I do. And it's just basically a little thing of encouragement. So I just want to say thank you, Society page, for your kind words. And you know that I have hold you in very high regard as well. Okay, so Jared Walsh, here we go. Here's a lawyer. Jumped. It's just an extension of time. Happens on a lot of appeals. That's what I thought, but now it is confirmed. Okay, Captain says the police interview with Alex and Alex Greenberg. Does anyone else feel like this couple could have been in the movie Best in Show? That's hilarious. Speaking of another New York story, when I first moved to New York, I was like in my early 20s, and I remember I was in Union Square because my first apartment was at 3rd and between 13th and 14th. And so I go Union Square and I saw the dog park, and you always just stop and watch the dogs, right? As a dog person, that's what I would do. And I remember I saw Parker Posey was in there, and she had a little white poodle. I think its name was Tracy. It was something AC. And it was just like a scene out of, I couldn't even believe it. It was just like a scene out of Best in Show. It was her voice. She wasn't in that character with braces and everything, but it was her voice. and she was going, "Sir, sir, can you get your dog?" She was yelling at other dog owners for not paying attention to their dog. And I just remember thinking, this is so surreal that I'm like, I'm in New York. This is so amazing. But I've also joked too that that's really funny about they're like finishing each other's sentences. You can tell that they're friends because he said something and she turned. It was like something like I think Jay did a really good clip, and I think I shared it in my Instagram stories where he clipped it at a very, again, he's kudos to Jay. He's just got a knack for this stuff. So he clipped to like the most important point, and it was basically Alex Greenberg saying, "Look, I think Wendi and her family are mean, and I think Wendi and her family would not be surprised if that's how this all turned out, that they did it, right?" And but he acknowledged that they're the obvious choice. So we'll see. But that he was like, "This is it," But it was so funny is that you could turn. She looked at him. She was just like proud of him for laying out. She like gave him like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, they're friends. And also too, they were admitting sort of their shortcomings and applying them against this other couple. So it really, they were finishing. They're on top of each other. But again, they're all hopped up in a police interrogation, and their friend's just been murdered. So everything is exaggerated. I don't think that's probably how they are on a day to day. I'll also say in Best in Show, I've said it before, but it would be so funny with all of it. Isn't it funny with all of the YouTube creators that are specifically talk about this case and have made channels to talk about this case? Aren't we all kind of like Best in Show? Like all proceeding upon Tallahassee, and we've all got our little way to cover this trial. We've all got our little quirks, and we all have our like strong person, like mentor lawyer is like, this Best in Show, and me and Judy and Katie Cool Lady, and there's like True Lifestyles. It's like there's all these like very, very different Patty's Playhouse, Murder by Maestro. There's too many to count. True Crime Metrics. I'm forgetting people, but yeah, it's just really funny. Surviving the Survivor. We're all like descending upon, and it all is like Best in Show. Everybody's like wants to be the first to like do this or be like most hits, the most clicks. And there is that sense of it is like Best in Show. All the YouTubers, it's very funny. You got to look at it with some humor. Oh, Roberta Glass. Yes, sorry. Thank you. I know I forget somebody. Gotta mention Roberta Glass. And I've probably forgotten other people. Society Page. I was just talking about, and that's whose comment I was reading. Okay. Yeah, the Best in Show with like couple, the Parker Posey, the New York couple were the best. They're like, we met at Starbucks, but not at the same Starbucks. I was at the Starbucks across the street. That's like, there literally is that, like on Broadway, there was a Starbucks across from a Starbucks. Okay, Lily Benjamin says, the Big Delicious Lunch, Wendi seems to express greater loss, more so than the father of the Big Delicious Kale Salad. I cannot tell you how I know that. Take it or leave it. But how on brand for the summer of 2014, and how on brand for Wendi not to process or express an original thought. If it wasn't dressed with an avocado oil and 17-year-old balsamic and didn't include walnuts, dried cranberries, the table of addition, she probably would have had Donna call in her order in advance. So I have a strong suspicion ordering her once monthly meal is incredibly overwhelming for Wendi. Yeah, I should have read that more, but that's funny. It is. She's and you know what? I have this pulled up because I was looking at it. So let me share this. Let's look at Mosaic. I've eaten at Mosaic. It's closed now, but I'm familiar with this restaurant. And a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are like, she's so dressed down. It doesn't make sense that she would go to a nice restaurant like that. And it is one of the nicer restaurants, or was at the time. It was a great restaurant. It was good. Let me see here. Okay, so this is Mosaic. And if you just go look, it's closed. But if you look here in the background, it's got the tile. You've got, it looks like fried green tomatoes here, or tomato salad. You've got a BLT. You've got, this isn't like fine dining. Look at that right there. That cucumber salad is in basically a, run of the mill. And if you go here to the menu, it's nice. And dinner, this was lunch. So the dinner's a different vibe. It's dark. They have candles on the tables, most likely. I don't know if they have a lunch menu. It's probably closed, but look, I mean, it's like, you can go get, they have a kale salad. This could be so out of date. You get into the salmon and the duck and stuff, but it's like, the lunch menu's different. I bet it was like $12. Yeah, here's crab cakes for an appetizer for 12. I'm thinking a lunch would be around $20. And they, it's it was in a strip mall. It wasn't like, it was a good restaurant. What I'm saying, I'm just saying for lunchtime, Tallahassee, I can see where, like, look, people would sit out and have this. You know what I mean? It's somewhat casual. Person looks like they have dirty sneakers on if you look down there. Okay, back to it. Let's get to the rest of this. Let's get to trivia because trivia is fun. Jess says, I have a random question. I'm so curious to know about Donna's family background. I did some very simple Google searches, and one of the searches I found said something about Donna having a brother. His name is Elliot. There's a plastic surgeon in Boca Raton, and his happens to be Elliot Jacobs. They look a lot alike. Thoughts, intel. Donna does have a brother. Donna and her was estranged from that brother. There was a family thing that happened that somewhat mirrors why Donna is the way she was. But her brother was estranged because Donna's mother got very angry and resentful for the brother just doing what normal people do that didn't live up to the expectations of mothers like Donna and her mom. So there is a rift there. Donna does have a brother. That brother does not live in Florida, from my understanding. He might. I don't think he's not a plastic surgeon. I think I would have heard that. But I don't think that is the same person. But I do know that person exists. And that is what I can tell you. All right, this is a long one. This is from Mia Wallace. Mia writes, hi, Fancy. Thanks for inviting questions. I have one. My question is this. What is the most beneficial deal for Catherine Magbanua that was offered to her by the state prior to her conviction? Previously, Christopher DeCoste replied to me in a comment that immunity comes in many different forms, and it was never defined here. He literally stated that what if any immunity she could have gotten was always complicated? If any, she points out, and then puts question marks. His statement does not align with my impression that the state had offered Katie full immunity in exchange for her full cooperation and testimony against other defendants in the Adelson 4. Why are there such wildly different presentation of what Katie was offered in exchange for her full cooperation with the state? This exchange was back in February when DeCoste made fun of me for not being an attorney and told me to stay in my lane. The exact comment DeCoste made was, quotations, we can't force our clients. All we can do is work our butts off preparing, explain chances in trial, convey the best possible deals, and let the client decide. There are also varying degrees of immunity. Normally with transactional full immunity, they wouldn't start by arresting the person, which is what they did here. What if any immunity she could have gotten was always complicated? Yeah, I don't know. Maya replies back, who is a lawyer, says, oh my gosh, the nerve of him saying that. That's the kind of attitude that makes everyone hate attorneys. Good job, Chris. He's wrong. Criminal cases are everyone's lane. Mia thanks her for the comment. And Angela writes, you're better than DeCoste. His client got maximum if she had had no representation at all. He's a nothing burger Esquire. Ooh, that's harsh, Angela. Look, I know that Christopher DeCoste loves to leave comments online. He's obviously extremely supportive of Tara Kawass and backs her entirely, so we really can't separate him. I originally thought we could. So he released that statement to Carl Etters, the Tallahassee Democrat, that seems very different in tone and reason and was very respectable. And then we saw Kawass's gaggle she did after Katie's sentencing to mentor lawyer. Very different. So you really wanted to think, and they had different styles too. And I saw a difference between how they handled themselves in court. So I really wanted to believe that DeCoste was kind of, obviously that's the partner, whatever, how it went down, but we thought maybe he would have enough common sense to stay offline and double down on things. But I just don't think that's who he is. And I think that comment is who he is. And I don't know what it means. Like a lawyer would have to, this is a conversation between lawyers because I'm just learning as I go. But I think originally Rashbaum, all I know is that Rashbaum on the stand, Georgia is quoted in the media saying that she's offered full immunity. She was offered full immunity. And I have that in an article. I have that. Those are her exact words. And I have that like on my Instagram. I posted that everywhere. It's like a graphic. So it's there to be found. So Georgia said that in the media. Then you had Daniel Rashbaum, when he was crossing Catherine Magbanua, he said, weren't you offered immunity, full immunity? And she said, yes. And then he said, and then after your first trial, you were offered immunity too. She wrote, yes. So I don't know what all that means. I don't know how you slice and dice immunity and what works. I mean, sounds very complicated and something I just don't know. I just don't know about that. All I know is that the evidence against Catherine Magbanua was overwhelming. I think Kawass just completely refused to look at anything objectively. And I think Kawass probably, they went and gave her all the offers. I think they, if you think you were to put on pay, do I think that they did anything extremely unethical? No, I don't think that they're bad people. I don't even think as much as I talk, I don't think Tara Kawass is a bad people. I think she got way too close with Katie and stopped giving her objective advice and stopped looking at this case objectively. I think that's a huge lawyer fail. I see it in the emotions and I see it with the way things panned out. It makes a lot of sense. And the situations around all of this. And I think that Katie looked up and thought, this is my mom, this is my savior. And I think she's so good. And she's telling me that Jessica Rodriguez, there's so many variations of the story. That's going to be not a problem. The Dulce Vita, there was nothing new there, not, whatever. And just the way that Tara Kawass just stopped seeing this case objectively. And I think that fed into Katie said she thought she was getting acquitted. So for Katie to go on trial and to say that on stand that she thought I remember Georgia, I watched it recently and said, did you think when she was crossing case, she said, do you think that you were going to be successful with that strategy? And she was like, yeah. So all of us kind of knew what's going on. And then even go back to Bob Harrison, who was Sigfredo's lawyer, said basically in letters, you've been had by them. And he wrote into a letter to Sigfredo saying, cooperate. He said, look, Katie is basically, she's playing a very risky game going into retrial, which is lawyer code for she's delusional. She's gonna get convicted, right? But everything, it's a second time around. Katie's testified. There's that working against her. So I don't know. This was not a good outcome. If you have a high profile case, you don't want outcomes like this. There was a lot of immunity talk, and sounds like DeCosta is trying to make it seem like this immunity thing was real but not real, and therefore was never a real thing. I don't know. That's what it sounds like. He's saying, yeah, there was talk of immunity, but it wasn't a real serious thing. But you heard Katie say that, so they took it to her. I don't know. I just think that I think Chris DeCosta sabotaged himself by being so. I think he has it was not a good. Tara's not a good look, or she wasn't in this case. It was a bad look. She looked subpar is the nicest way I can put it. And he suffered by that, and he's doubling down years later. So it makes me think that they were a little more, maybe he's a better lawyer with worse judgment. I don't know, but he thinks that Tara did good, and he thinks immunity wasn't a real thing, or he's saying that, or it's complicated, or it wasn't a real thing that Magbanua option she could hang her hat on. That's what I'm reading from, if what you're saying is true and that really was him. I don't know. All right, let's get to trivia. Let's get to something a little more fun. Those are all my comments. Someone's asking if I'm attending the trial. Do you think they'll arrest Wendi before the trial states? No, I do not think they'll arrest Wendi before the trial states. And I think there'll be a little lag behind Donna. I think it's going to move kind of like we saw it so far. Like they'll wait a little bit, get the conviction, put their ducks in the row, take a little break, right? it's hard to try these cases. You need a little break after one. All right, let's get to trivia. Back to... Okay, the way this is going to go is that you need to be quick and you need to be specific. So basically the first one that is able to write in here what the comet is, right? Then I'll award the first person. I'll literally go right here. I'll ask the question. The first one to type it in will be able to, will win, right? And you'll get the honor. The reward is the honor of winning and knowing this case. And it'll be really cool if the same person keeps getting it, right? All right, so this is a game. This is how we're going to end this out. Something fun, something new. Let's go. Trivia. Okay. You guys ready? You got your fingers ready? You want to do a little pop your knuckles? Here we go. Charlie met both Donna and Katie at what South Beach establishment to discuss issues related to the bump? Yep, here we go. Lolly 77, congratulations. Monty's, you are correct. And then we've got other people. I'm going to go back to Lolly because she got it first, but Leslie was really quick. Second, and then you got Avalee. This is so sweet. You guys know this. We're starting out with a good one. Look at this. This is so sweet. Is Wendi holding a little butterfly? I know who this is so sweet is. Let me see. All right, so Lolly, congratulations. That's some real quick typing. You got it. You got it. And let's go back here. Here is the evidence of Lolly. So this is at the top. I figured this out. I originally thought this was, and if you follow me on social media, you saw that I made this mistake and quickly corrected it. This is Katie looks like getting into Charlie's car, or getting in. That's what it looks like. Or maybe he's getting out. I'm not sure. And there's Harvey's Lexus in the back. And I originally thought this was the Dolce Vita because they talk about her getting in the car for 10 minutes. That's not captured before they go to Dolce Vita. But I actually looked. This was so the bump was on April 19th. So this is where we're getting all this. This is what the bump was intended to do, is to get all these people meeting and talking about it. So on April 20th, so April 19th, the bump. Sammy Simon goes and hands Donna the news article with $5,000 and about Dan Markel and a number written on it. So if you look here, I'll read this. It says, on Monday, April 25th, 2016, undercover agent mailed Harvey and Donna Adelson a letter, UPS. Calls intercepted, and this is what they sent to the Adelson Institute, that letter. It says, calls intercepted indicate Donna had shared the information with Charlie, who in turn has forwarded it to Magbanawa. Magbanawa has asked Garcia to either determine who the phone number belongs to or call the number. Remember all that. So we're going on and on. It says, later the same date, so on the 25th, Charlie called Magbanawa and asked if she was on her way. It appears that Charlie and Magbanawa have been communicating through a different source to schedule a meeting. And you heard Katie say something about a burner phone, or she thought he had a burner phone, or also could have been WhatsApp. And it says that Charlie directs her to Harvey and Donna's building to meet with them. Charlie told Magbanawa that he was talking to his parents about everything. I've done a lot of live streams and stuff where I'm like, this is why Harvey knew, and I do that, and I do the Matsuri, and then I put all the cases. But this is a good one. This is him admitting that Harvey's in, Harvey knows, and this is 6 days after the bump. And Matsuri was, well, we'll get to that. Charlie continues to try to convince her to meet at Donna and Harvey's building, but eventually gives in and agrees to meet with her at another location. Magbanawa called Charlie back, who advised her that they're meeting at a marina near Monty's. So this is like right after the bump. I believe outside Monty's, Patrick Sanford took this bottom photograph of Donna and Charlie talking. And he's in different stuff. So after this, or right after, this is the same outfit at the bottom of when he goes and talks to Katie at Dolce Vita on the 19th. So this is like right after, or the Dolce Vita was on the 20th. The bump happens on the 19th. Donna says, don't come today. Dad's home. Wendi, it's not good. We'll meet tomorrow. Come over. He calls Katie, says, I'll talk to my mom tomorrow. This is going on. And it has to do with you, then we need to meet. So, and it's really funny here, and I've pointed this out. Donna apparently was up all night, had diarrhea after the bump. You could hear Charlie laugh, telling Katie that. Here she is wearing white shorts. I don't want to think she's lying about diarrhea as well, but I mean, who wears white shorts if you have diarrhea all night? Sorry. All right. Congratulations, Lolly. Everybody's going to get another chance. We've got a couple of these. Ready? Go. Law enforcement searched Wendy's laptop and listed the following Google keyword searches of interest made by Wendi: Amy Adler, Amy Adler's husband, Amy Adler brother, and what else? Here we go. Nap connoisseur got it. Wait, it jumps so quick. Oh, but this is so sweet. Put porn. Oh, wait, sorry. No, sorry. Ryan B gets it. It jumps. But then this is so sweet. Did porn. You guys know right away. So Ryan B, professor, student, teacher. I'll take it. It's teacher, student. It was listed, but professional. You're a long timer. You get it. But this is so sweet. People coming in with it. These three really came in right away. It jumps quick, but Ryan B was the first to get in. Students, teachers, yeah. So anyway, here's it says, it's from the police report. This person says they attended the memorial service, and they're talking about Alex and Maya now. And it says, I went through the downloaded information on Wendi Adelson's ex-wife's desktop computer that had been processed by TPD, Tallahassee Police Department, technical issue support members. Possible matters of interest were numerous Google Chrome keyword searches that Wendi had conducted on the victim's new girlfriend, Amy Adler, Amy's ex-husband, and Amy's brother. Wendi had also performed keyword searches on several porn sites to include teacher-student porn. It's just funny. This is it's such a short list. It's such a short list. I don't know. I mean, I guess they're at college, but someone that's a professor, it's around kids all day. I don't know. I'm not judging. We all have our kinks, but it's just, this is a detail that cannot be dismissed or denied. It's there. All right. At what age was Sigfredo Garcia reported to have first been arrested? Here we go. Oh, it jumps so quick because you guys are all answering, so I got to get the first one. First one to say it. Giovanni's Pikachu. Other people got it as well. I watched, it's been years, but 2019, but I remember watching during Sigfredo Garcia's sentencing, the woman that was testifying who'd done all the research on his background and why he shouldn't get the death penalty or something. I don't know if it was there, but I remember he's got arrested as a kid for arson. But I think that was a juvenile. Maybe they didn't press charges, but I did remember hearing he got in trouble in single digits. But ultimately, when he was actually arrested, it was in 1997. It was just 3 days after his 15th birthday. That's when he was arrested. And he was arrested at least 21 more times. This is antisocial behavior. I know people saying he's a nice guy when you get in front of him, you wouldn't think he would do this, but actions speak louder than words. All right, you guys ready for the next one? Yeah, I read 7 too. It was an arson thing, but I think that he's probably in juvie or they didn't press charges. But there was some more disturbing stuff. But I guess in terms of he was actually arrested, obviously they're reporting here on his rap sheet. So. All right, you guys ready for the next question? All right, here we go. What phrase did the undercover use in the note sent to the Adelson Institute that made Charlie suspect a girl wrote it? Got to be the exact phrase. There it is. They're coming in. They come in like 10. It's just whoever gets it. Ava Lee got it. You don't care. Ava Lee got it. And then everyone got it right behind it as well. It's like everyone got it. Okay. Here's the actual note that got into evidence. On Monday, April 25th, the undercover agent mailed a letter to Harvey and Donna Adelson, sent by USPS by investigators for the purpose to follow up on the undercover's initial conversation and what they termed as tickling the wire. Calls intercepted indicate Donna shared information with Charlie, who was in turn forwarded to Magbanua. Magbanua asked who the number belongs to. It appears that Garcia lied to Magbanua, and the call was not whatever. The agent's phone number was not been called. It's working properly after conducting tests to verify. The FBI agents listening must be thinking these guys are just idiots. But look, my phone is not ringing. You don't care about Tato and what he did for you. He knows he is fucked, and so will you. So, but let's just go. Everyone talks about how smart and how brilliant Charlie are, but like they're really idiot savants. So let's just go and let's just make this full circle, because let's hear how Charlie and Donna react real time to getting this. This is how dumb they are. They're really dumb. These are dumb criminals. If you like take it all away, their money and their flashy lawyers, they're really dumb. Let me see. It's a really quick, short little call. So, and it's funny.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you, honey?
Good. Good. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Just straightening up some things in the house. Vicky sent me the hours, so I'm working on everybody's salaries for tomorrow. Other than that, everything is good. What about you?
All right. Good. You feel better after what I told you last night?
Significantly.
Yeah. It makes sense. It makes 1,000% sense.
Yeah. No, I know it does.
And that's what it is. No, that's what it is.
And you think today those sort of things would get taken care of?
Oh yeah.
And once they are, would you let me know?
Yeah. No. Trust me. I mean,
please.
Well, someone gets to work on the appointment today.
Right.
Set it up. I mean, it's not like it's not like at 9 a.m. It's like I got a conference call.
Yeah.
No, I got to call the patient. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But can I tell you something? The more I think about it too, when someone writes "you don't care," you know what that sounds like? A girl.
Yeah, because that's girls.
You don't care.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they sound. You don't care. Well, I never met the person, so I don't care about people I've never met.
No. Have you ever gotten a note from a girl or a girl saying to you, "You don't care"?
That's the first thing they say. That's the first thing they say. You don't care. Well, guess what? I don't care about anyone I've never met.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's what it was, and that's why you had it was like a mediation where someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, I'm really just doing my job," but
yeah,
that explains it all.
I think so too.
Yep,
I think so too. So that's
they weren't the same person,
right?
Without a doubt. It's not. I mean, listen, I actually do know how these things are done, and that was the same thing that I said. It's not done like this.
Right. No, that's what you explained.
No, it's 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, just enough time.
Let me take this call real quick. I'll call you right back.
Go, doll. Okay. Let's get back.
The famous "it's not done like this." And don't you?
We are the Skaggs family, Matthew and Cosette, and we are owners of Jellyfish Lighting.
You can't even pause it.
We've lived in this house 7-8 years.
Ads, man. All right, let's go back to You don't care. That's a girl. So dumb. They're so dumb. That's the whole point of this bump operation, is get these idiots doing exactly what they're doing. What car? Ooh, I think it jumped. What car did Sigfredo purchase with the money he got from the murder? I'm looking for a specific name of the car. He also bought a motorcycle. Yep, here we go. New York Patriot lady. Make sure no one jumped before you. It jumps really quick. No, Patriot lady got it first. Oh, wait, this is so sweet. Sorry. Patriot lady was up before it. But this is so sweet. You're getting them all. You're getting them all. Just, it's the click. Here it is. The picture of the Monte Carlo. They also bought motorcycles. Louise told us all about this, the breakdown. But congrats to New York Patriot lady. It says, I got to hide your comments so that I can read that. What's on the screen for a second. Dan Marcar murder. Anna Norris. Sorry, bought a 1984 Monte Carlo and a Suzuki motorcycle. And then it's, you know, he on Facebook, he put, I think he shared this post and he put like toys, my toys. Remember how we started this live stream where Dan Markel, his glasses were split in half because Garcia shot him in between so, you know, and I think even too, you'll hear in the jail, I haven't listened to it yet because I think it was premiering when I was going on, but the jailhouse rat calls, if you listen to them, like one of the guys says, like, Garcia seems like a really cool guy. He like kind of carries himself like he did the murder, but otherwise he was like pretty cool. We drank, he got upset. Magbanua was arrested, But he like, I can see where he has like a cool general, you can get along with him demeanor. Yindra also gave that kind of impression. But yeah, he shot a guy in between the eyes and you saw the aftermath of that. And then he goes and posts my toys with what he got. All right, you ready for the next one? After the FBI captured Charlie and Harvey's Matsuri conversation on April 21st, 2016, 2 days after the bump, there was another public meeting to discuss things in which Harvey was present. Where? Where was the second meeting where they all were around discussing and Harvey was around? It's a very specific place. Almost RN. Come on. There it is. You finally got it. This is so sweet. This is exactly what the people put pool at the condo. I want icon pool. That's right. So they were at the pool outside the icon. Someone put condo pool, but I was really looking for icon at the pool. The answer is right there. Terminology. May 4th, 2016 at 2:09 a.m. a text message was sent to Donna's cell from the undercover agent. Later the day, Charlie asked Donna if she is okay, and Donna advises she will talk to Charlie about it on Sunday. Charlie wants to talk about it to Donna before Sunday, and they agreed to Charlie coming around 11:30 a.m. the following day, May 5th. We saw photos. That was a previous slide. While driving to meet Donna, Charlie calls Magbanua advising that there has been a new problem and that he may need to meet with her later the day. On May 5th, Charlie arrives at the icon, and they agree to meet by the pool area to discuss the text message. This time, Harvey is present with Charlie and Donna as they huddle at the corner area for privacy. There's no oral intercept captured. After this occurs, Charlie leaves the icon and calls Magbanua and then talks about how someone would get his mother's number. Magbanua tells Charlie it's possible to locate a phone number online. Charlie talks about specific phrases sent via the text message. Charlie then calls Donna and they discuss paying the $5,000. Charlie advised the sooner they pay the money, the better. They discuss being nice but firm when the money is paid so the person knows this is a one-time payment. Icon pull. Harvey's in the thick of it. He's all up in it. He's just not making moves. He's not moving the chess pieces on the board. I've used this thing, but he's walking around it and watching Charlie and Donna as they do and giving advice. Okay, next one. You guys ready? Get your fingers ready. What did Katie say she wishes she could be during one of her proffers? There it is, KCL, I think. A bird. That's exactly correct. Katie, dear God, remember from Forrest Gump, Jenny? Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away from here. Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away from here. Let's watch the moment, shall we?
Something good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, it's so weird. Like the clouds in Ocala, I guess it just been inside for such a long time. It seems so close. Like it was like 3D.
You
When I
talking about
first
the
saw
clouds being down?
Yes, it's so low. It's beautiful. Yeah.
About as beautiful as it can be from your point of view, right?
It is.
Yeah, Ocala is a beautiful area.
It's just weird because I'm looking at the clouds now. It's like so high, but over there, it seems like it's like right there, like right in front of you.
That's kind of like the way it is if you ever go to the mountains.
Yeah,
It's like
kind of
you
like
can
that,
almost-
like what I see in movies. Yeah, like you can touch
almost,
it.
yeah, reach it. But then it's just the opposite. If you go like out west, a mountain looks like it's right there,
But it's really far away.
and you've driven for 2 hours, and that mountain's
It's
still
still
right there.
there.
You're like, wow, it's a different perspective, you know.
Definitely is. God, I wish I could be that bird.
I'm sure you do.
Lord willing.
Lord willing. She's not doing herself, I mean, Lord willing. Like Tara Kawass said, is that prosecutors have always said that she holds the key to her own freedom. All she needs to do is tell them that what they want to hear and lie and tell them that she, was involved when she wasn't. There's no reason a single mother of 2 would not take full immunity deal. That's crazy, unless they were innocent. And here she is sitting here at the end of the fucking line, and she's not even doing well here. And she's saying, Lord willing, that I get to be free again like a bird. Quite a powerful moment right here, which is why I wanted to highlight it. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. I am going to be doing another live stream, kind of continue on this role. And I'm going to be... Also, I just want to say, before I forget, shout out to Angela, because Angela is the one who kind of forced me to look and see that I got the photo wrong of going into the Dolce Vita versus the Montes meeting, when they look like they're getting into the car. So that's another thing I have in my notes here that I wanted to give her a shout out for that, for making me look deeper into that, send me a message. Just basically got my back. It's really nice when people see something and they say something to me privately. Let me go kind of research it and correct it. So thank you, Angela, for always just being great like that. And then I also just want to say, at the end of the day, if you go back and, the Katie stuff and the proffer and whose fault it was and all the immunity stuff talk tonight, I do want to say as a lawyer, especially for Christopher DeCoste, who went in there and tried to get Katie to that moment where she's sitting there wishing she was a bird. It's very different skill sets to be a trial lawyer, where you have to go out and be on top of all the facts, can't make mistakes. You have to be compelling and charming and craft an argument and stick to it and keep it tight and then amend it as things come along. I realize it's a very hard job. And it's a very distinct skill set, right? It's a very, it's analytical, but then it's, you have to be, part actor, you have to, all this stuff. It's very, so I understand that it's very hard and it's a big job. But then I also want to say, both for Tara Kawass and for Christopher DeCoste, they are trial lawyers and that sort of thing. But I also think if you really want to look at it, and I really want to be fair, they're also criminal defense lawyers at this point in the stuff, or where they're trying to bring deals. I don't know what training they get for this. They almost have to they have to almost be a social worker themselves. Like, even trying at the end of the line, you see how hard it is to get Catherine Magbanua to admit anything. I think she's a narcissist as well, and a little sociopathic, and how she was able to keep profiting off the murder and laugh about it and go back and forth with Charlie, knowing what she did. She took a life for money and from some attention from a guy that she was getting favors from. Horrible person, and would sacrifice her kids' livelihoods and chance to be with, have parents. Horrible. But at the same time, it's like, to have someone go in who's just done that trial and then come in and try to be a social worker for Katie, that's really hard. To take deals or to stop lying. I just want to say there's a lot of shit being given. There's a lot of judgment. But I do want to say I do recognize that. And I think that should be noted. There's a lot that's just very competing skill sets, to convince people to do things, make them see the light. And with Katie, a big part of it, and I said this in one of my earlier live streams, is I always thought the reason why she didn't come clean or whatever had nothing to do with Sigfredo. I don't think she gives a shit about Sigfredo. She was about to marry some girl in Leon County jail, right? I don't think she wanted to implicate herself, but I think that it was cultural shame. I think that she had built herself in being this college educated, being the good girl, and hearing her go back up with Sigfredo. She really wanted to, like Charlie liked to walk in both worlds, right? How it's said, he had criminal underbelly, but then, his rich, doctor friends. But then too, like Katie's doing that on a much lower scale, where she's, she went to college, but then she's got this gangbanger, killer baby daddy. And she liked to rock both worlds. So I think they both have these like narcissistic traits, and they both of them will never admit that they did anything wrong, because they can never be wrong, right? They always blame others. Even Katie in this proffer says, that's why I just wish can I talk to Sigfredo? Can we get Sigfredo? It's because it's cultural shame. She did not want to admit that she did this murder. She didn't want to admit it to her kids. She didn't want to admit it to her family. That to me is what it was. And that she thought that Sigfredo was the one that really did it and is the one that should be blamed, and that she did not want to go down for it just for basically saying, you have a piece of paper in my diaper bag. She did not think she was culpable, and she did not want to admit she was a murderer and carry that shame. And a lot of it's cultural. And the Filipino, that's a real thing. That's very Catholic. It's a very shame-based. And her parents were immigrants, so they were born and bred. And she was, I think, came over as a young child. So I think that is really, and I'm seeing it here now that she's in these proffers, and it made me think about that. I wanted to say that. So any last minute questions? And then I am going to go because it's really late and this went longer than I thought. Hope everybody has a great night. There's my as I read the comments. I actually do have an air horn. Hold on, Mia. I have one right here within reach. Hold on. I'm scared to do it. It's going to blow your ears out. I'm not going to do it, but I do have an air horn as a novelty. I want to get like a little necklace with an air horn. I'm going to do some more air hounding videos. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for, sorry I didn't get to pay attention to the chat. I was really in the weeds with all these details, but thank you so much. And have a great night. Thanks for spending time with me and listening to me and putting up with me. And thanks for caring about this case. Bye.